everyone, this is Shel from Paper Rock TO Studio, and today I am sharing with you a art journal page that I did. This is sort of inspired by a challenge from a group on Facebook called Studio ABC, which is Linda Ann Smith's group. She's another creator on YouTube that I've collaborated with. So every month in her group, she has a artist's birthday challenge, and this is the first time I've done one. I belong to so many Facebook groups, and there's so many challenges, and I know you guys see me do a lot of challenges because I really can't resist a challenge. But I don't do them all that are available. There's so much available out there, and so anyway, this challenge is about artists' birthdays. In the month of October, she chose an artist named Romero Brito. He's from Brazil, a self-taught artist that is very famous for pop art. And I've never really done pop art, and so I decided that it would be fun to make a art journal page in my nature-inspired book that is done in the style of Romero Brito pop art. So the first thing I did was to make a sketch with my mechanical drafting pencil, and I drew some pumpkins and some leaves, and that kind of a boxy background. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in all these little pieces using some acrylic paint. I don't actually know what Romero Brito makes his art with. I know that he was poor as a child and didn't have materials, and that he liked to paint on newspaper with, I'm assuming, maybe some tempera paints or something like that. But as far as his professional career, I don't know if he does acrylics or oils or what. I have no idea actually. But I'm using acrylics. These are Decoart Media fluid acrylics. They're very highly pigmented fluid acrylic, and they're bright. And the thing about pop art is that it's bright colors, bright clean colors, and clean lines, not shading or highlighting or anything like that. It's just very straightforward type of a process. So I picked out some bright colors from my Decoarts, and I'm just going around and painting in all the sections that I drew. And I'm not painting like the pumpkin is all different colors, the leaf is all different colors, the panels in the back are all different colors. If you take a look at the art of Romero Brito, this is kind of what it looks like. A lot of different sections and very bright and cheerful looking. It makes you happy to look at it. He's been successful doing this. He's been hired by many major corporations to do ad campaigns or posters for different things like that. I mean, the guy is probably rolling in the bucks at this point. He does give a lot of his money back to the community, so that's good. He's been hired by Disney, Apple, Pepsi, just all kinds of stuff. It's modern, bold, bright art. And I thought when I started that this was going to be a very quick project, that it would be very easy to do. And it is easy, but not quick. I did not realize how long it would take me to paint all these little sections, and then when I messed up I had to go back, and then I've got to put texture in all of them. The texture that he has in his backgrounds and foregrounds are of a graphic nature and appear to be very perfect in most cases, so I decided to use some stencils, and then also I did some hand textures at the end, but I started out with the stencils. This is a Mr. Huey's stencil that just has dots, and he uses dots and lines and squiggles and little like flowery shapes and things like that, just to add a layer of dimension to each section of the painting. Another thing that I end up having to do is, well, it's not yet, but I ended up going over a lot of the areas. I told you that this paint is very pigmented, but in some cases it's translucent. And the translucent paint that the colors that I picked that were translucent looked very streaky, like that phthalo green yellow on the stem and the leaf and that upper left side streaky. So I ended up having to go over it. And in some cases, I even added some titanium white. And the titanium white's very, very opaque. So that helped it not be so streaky, even though it did lighten the color. And in a couple of these cases, like right now, I'm lightening the color intentionally. Like I didn't want the full strength of dioxazine purple, which is very, very dark color, very intense purple. I wanted it to be lighter, so I mixed it with titanium white. And I mixed the turquoise, the cobalt turquoise hue with titanium white as well. So I'm just kind of going back and forth, coloring in, and then if I'm done coloring in with that color, then I'm going back and using the excess through a stencil. And by using the same colors for the stenciling as I do for the sections of the piece, it adds continuity. So it brings that color all the way through the piece, whichever color it might be. And it uses up the paint, so that's always good. I've been very guilty of hoarding this paint. I really like it. It's got so much pigment in it, and it's so, I don't know, it just seems really high end. And so I hoard the heck out of it. So I've really been trying to use it lately. You've seen me use it in quite a few things. Because some of it's getting thick, and that's sad if you waste your paint by not using it. So I want some more of it, and I think it's really awesome. Here's an instance where I added a little bit of titanium white. I thought there was too much of that same orange color, so I decided to make kind of a peachy color and put that around in a few places, so I've got orange and peach, because I colored a lot of things with orange. Of course, the reason that I did that was because pumpkins are orange, so I thought there should be a lot of orange. But then I decided there was too much orange, so I backed off on it. You know, that's how things go. You start, you finish, you start, you re-add, you change, you fuss. At least I do. I fuss a lot. So I'm pretty much onto this stenciling at this point, although I think I do go back a few times and have to touch up where I made the stencil go over a section that wasn't supposed to be. Then I had to go back and touch up the color. Things like that. So I'm using solid shapes in most cases on the stenciling, like diamonds and stars and dots and things like that, stripes. I think they look better in this case than something really fussy, although I think I do use some swirls eventually. I do like swirls. And here's the case where I added titanium white to the phthalo green yellow to help with the streakiness of that color. It was the worst offender of being very streaky. Could really see the brush marks. It probably would have worked to just go over it a couple more times, but you know I'm impatient, and I mean, how many times am I going to go over it? 2 is my max, I'll tell you that. If it takes more than that, I'm already done. I'm done. Just put a fork in me. So I just continue on doing this process. This is not difficult. I suggest that anyone should try it. You all should do some pop art in this style and then post it somewhere and tag me so that I can see it. Instagram or Facebook, or make a video if you are a video maker. I would like to see it. I think it's pretty cool. So that's where I got out some more stencils. I decided the ones I had out just weren't enough. Some of you might wonder how I picked the colors to go with what colors. I kind of wish that I had made the colors in the background less bright. But that's not the same as what Brito does. They're bright. It's all bright. There's not like a difference between the background and the foreground so much. I kind of would have liked that, I think, better myself. So if I did it again, I would do that. I would make those background colors lighter. But as far as picking which, should I put turquoise over orange? Should I put, orange over yellow? I didn't think that much about it. I think I have in my head colors that I like together already. And all these colors are dry before I put the second color on, so there's not any mud making. So I really wasn't overly concerned about my color combinations. I just wanted it to be bright and happy colors. So after all that was done, I needed to put in the thick black lines. And I was looking for a bigger marker. I couldn't find one. I apparently don't have a fatter marker. So I'm using, well, I do have a medium tip Posca black somewhere, but I could not find it. So I'm using my fine tip Posca, and I'm just making the lines fat by going over them, which takes a little bit more time than if I had a real fat marker. I just have never really purchased one of the large markers. I know that Posca has some, and that Montana markers come in really fat markers, but I really can't see myself having much of a use for that, so this worked fine. And I also am using my multiple colors of Poscas that I have to touch up things in some places. Like I have a peach marker that pretty much worked for touching up an area of the lighter orange, but then I do have to get out the paint a couple different times and go and touch up a few things that I messed up. Oh, that right there, I had used a second coat of the green gold on the little spirally thing that goes off of the pumpkin, and I smeared it with my hand. So then I had to go back in with the turquoise to fix it. Things like that. It's just back and forth, back and forth. So in the case of the very straight lines that are dividing up the panels, I am using my little 6-inch ruler and like drawing a line, then going and drawing another line a little bit away from it, and then coloring in between with the marker. But then around the curvier stuff, I have to do it by hand. But I do want those straight lines to be very, very straight. This project took me 2 hours and 27 minutes to complete. So, of course, it's sped up, and a few things are cut out or whatever. Like, you didn't need to watch me at the beginning putting gesso on the page. This journal is a handmade journal that I made for a, what would you call it? It traveled all over the world, and people did work in it. But I used different papers. I used some watercolor paper. I used some manila cardstock, and just different things to give the people who are going to be working in my journal different options of what kind of paper they might want to work on. Mixed media paper. So this page was half manila cardstock and half watercolor paper. So I used a couple good coats of white gesso to seal everything in, and also to make those two different papers kind of work better together by being sealed heavily with gesso. So you didn't need to watch me do that, but I'll tell you that I did it. And it worked out fine. You can't even tell in the final composition that it's two different papers. So I'm not sure why pop art and Romero Brito style has such fat lines. I don't know why. But it really makes it look very graphic. It's an interesting look. I never would make this fat of lines, even as my illustrator inclinations force me to make black lines around everything. I still don't ever make them this fat. But it looks cool. I like it. If you're enjoying this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment so I know you were here. Subscribe if you haven't already, and of course you can share it if you want on Pinterest or Facebook or that Tweety Bird thing. I don't do that one. Tweety Bird thing. Yeah. So then, once all my black lines were done, I went back in with my colored Posca pins, which I have a couple. I have a set of medium tips and a set of fine tips that are different colors, and I used those to finish putting in pattern on everything, and also doing a little bit of touch-up in some cases, but mostly just putting pattern in. So like in this case, I'm making 3 little lines, 3 little lines, 3 little lines to make a pattern. And sometimes it's just dots, sometimes it's bigger dots, lines and dashes, squiggle lines, plaid pattern, just whatever type of thing. This is very relaxing doodling type stuff that I've done my whole life. Filling in things with patterns. I used to make block letters. Like I constantly made block letters and then filled them in this way. I can't stop my hands from doodling if I'm on the phone or something like that. My hands are constantly doodling something. Just different stuff. But the filling in of the patterns on things, I did that a lot as a teenager. I had a crush on a boy, and I talked a lot on the phone, and I ended up having like this whole padded paper thing completely covered in that boy's name. from talking to my girlfriends on the phone and then doodling that boy's name over and over. First name, last name, my first name with his last name. You get the idea. And it was one of those big desk pad things covered with it. Teenage girls can be crazy like that. So, I think we're... wow, I don't know what's wrong with my throat today. We're probably getting close. No, not even close to the end. I guess there's that green gold still to do. Okay. Oh yeah, I missed a black line right there, right down the middle of that one. That little leaf. I don't think I have much more to say, so I guess I'll play music for the rest of this. There's close-ups at the end, of course. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed it.